For those of you who don't know Kate's work, I thought it might be a great idea to get Kate to do you one of her poems straight off, so you know the sort of context and country that we're in. So, Kate, I'm not lumbering you with anything here, but take it away, girl.
Cool, okay. Well, I feel a bit awkward not knowing where to stand. I'm just going to stand here, is that right? Yeah. Hello, I'm Kate Tempest. I thought because we're in a church I'd do one. It's not really religious, but it kind of has overtones. But then I realised I don't know it all the way through. So what I'm going to do is probably fuck up, and then what you'll think it is a dramatic pause. Luckily, I've just made a book, so it's written down. It goes like this. It's called End Times. It goes, I can smell the thunder coming. I can smell the rain. You're the only one I ever knew whose arms could hold my flames without burning like the others burn, and you told me hell's to blame. That's when I told you hell's a choice you make. I'm sure Blake would have said the same. And yeah, all deities do reside within, but how come I feel this presence above? It's your love and it unplugs my heart and starts the floods again within me, drowning out the badness that I harbour. My goodness battens down the hatches and holds on to her partner. She's telling me storm's coming. Well, of course it is. It always is on nights like this, because the tower blocks are murmuring and I can sense a turning wind, and I glimpse a man that isn't even there. And I know that glitch for all it's worth, man. I pass out full of madness and I wake up drenched in thirst, like give me whiskey, give me beers to glug, let me lose this fear and I'll love anyone who's near enough to even looking a little bit like you. Look, all I'm trying to say is today's like all them other days, and all I'm trying to do is mark this down. I want to make this true. I've got to make this count for something, because it feels like nothing is eternal and nothing means a thing. It feels like nobody believes nothing. That's why we live in all this sin, but we mistake it for normality, even something to attain. My descent sets me apart, but right now I smell that rain. It's come to wash away the masks embedded on our weary hearts. Look, this is merely metaphor, but metaphor is flexing jaw and getting ready for the fight. He came to fight with the surface world. We lost our purpose, hurled into the furnace where the burn is near celestial. Yes, detestable outsider. Yes, my chest is full of cider, gin and lightning. Yes, my eyes will dim, but the rhymes will sing in times to come. Since I begun, my head's been filled with end. These people wear too many faces, but I swear the truth will strike again. You see, I wake up in these end times, curled up in this wreckage, thinking life will happen, whether we dismiss it or expect it. So come here, look into my eyes. You will see your own eyes reflected. I'm crying my oceans into paragraphs, while behind our backs our shadows laugh. We wake up in these end times, we're curled up in this wreckage, thinking, man, life will happen, whether we dismiss it or accept it. So come on, look into my eyes. You'll see your own eyes reflected. I'm crying oceans into paragraphs, while behind my back my shadow laughs. You see, when I tell my rhymes, I shut my eyes, it helps me see stuff. These words are like the leaves in the bottom of a gypsy's teacup. If you look at them right, you might see the future in them. Always knew that I was here for much more than wash the dishes, Kate, do the cooking. I swear I'm here to speak for everyone that never gets a look in. You know, the ones that ain't good looking. The ones that hate the crooked, wicked nature of the system. For everyone who knows, just because we can't see the bars don't mean we aren't imprisoned. I believe every soul was born blessed with true wisdom, and that life is about getting back what was given before life. How come we're all in these disguises hidden? Why must we sleep through life and live through dreams? Is it because we can't tell the difference all my life? People look to me with roused suspicion. I told them I gotta be what I gotta be, mate. I'm the victim of my own condition. The meaning is the same, no matter which language speaks it. The new paradigm begins as soon as we're ready to perceive it. And that's that real talk. These are whirlpool words you can drown in. I'm so desperate for beauty, I'll turn scaffolding to mountains. I'll turn traffic into breakers. While the illusion overtakes us, I say we need to learn to bite the hand that bullies and berates us. Because we wake up in these end times, we're curled up in the wreckage, thinking life will happen, whether we dismiss it or accept it. So come on, look into my eyes, you'll see your own eyes reflected. I cry my oceans into paragraphs, or behind my back my shadow laughs. We wake up in these end times, curled up in this wreckage. Yeah, life will happen whether we dismiss it or expect it. If I looked into your eyes, would I see my own eyes reflected? I cry my oceans into paragraphs, because behind our backs our shadows laugh.
Kate, it's going to be a tough audience. How does a kid from southeast London get bitten by that bug, which we all know is lethal, called poetry?
Well, I was always writing a lot. I used to read a lot when I was little, and then, you know, I wrote really shit adolescent teenage poetry and didn't tell anybody that I was doing it, apart from like my English teacher who had to pretend that he was marking it. And then I had a lot of mates who were like rappers, and you know, they were all like these kind of really cool, expressive, funny guys that went and did rapping and that. And so one day I wrote this kind of thing that I thought was a rap, and I was in love with hip hop, and called up my mate and said, oh, I think I've written a rap, and did it down the phone, and he was like, you know what, that's not actually that bad. So then he took me to this like open mic cypher thing where in town, and there was like all these guys, and I was like short and kind of fat and ginger and had specs, and like I was carrying like, I don't know, a book or something like equally uncool, and I had my one little rap, and I did it, and just the feeling in the place where like everybody was so like, not hostile, but they were like, why, what are you even doing here? Who told you you were allowed in even? And then like, I did my one little rap, and like everything just changed in the room. And then I kind of just fell in love with that, with expressing. I felt like hip hop reminded me how much I loved words and how much I used to love to read, and then now I read and I write.
Did you grow up in a sort of bookish house? Were your parents book readers, or?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, my dad's got poetic ambitions. Like he's a wonderful poet. But no, I don't know. Yeah, I was encouraged. I was given books. I don't know. I don't really know what to say without sounding like a bit of an idiot. Sorry.
Did you have that teacher at school? I mean, you mentioned an English teacher. Did you have that teacher at school? So many artists that I speak to did have that one person who sort of switches on the light for you, and that light burns forever. Who just says, you know, if you like that, go and read that, and if you like that, that's really good what you're doing. And
yeah, he was cool. He was called Mr. Bradshaw.
Yeah, we can all remember their names, can't we? I'm with Mr. Woodruff. You've got those people, that, you know, that one teacher or those couple of teachers who just say, actually, you know, this whole myth that if you can't do it, teach it is such nonsense. I mean, teachers are such inspirational people.
But then at the same time, there was a couple of really awful, like really, like there was one.
Right, I was just rhapsodising, Kate, and now you're going to burst their bubble.
Sorry.
Stop it.
Sorry.
All right, we'll stick with Mr. Bradshaw,
yeah, he was
shall
cool.
we?
He was all right.
How was it as a sort of 16-year-old white girl in that world of rap? They're not known for their embracing the feminist ideology or the.
I don't know. In a lot of ways, it gave me a bit of a head start because, like I say, the opinion was always going to be that you're going to be shit. So even if, sorry for swearing so much, even if you're a little bit better than awful, then you've already won. So. In a lot of ways, if I was a boy and was saying the things that I was saying, nobody would have cared. Yeah. But because I was a girl, it gave me a head start. Obviously, it was difficult. I'd go to try and get on the microphone and literally just couldn't. But it gives you a bit of a fire and it makes you want to try harder.
Do you think you're thick-skinned, or do you think you're?
Maybe when I was younger, but I think now I'm a bit more of a sensitive poet type.
Yeah.
I kind of left those days behind me. I don't know.
You won a competition in New York, didn't you, for spoken word?
Yeah, like a couple of slams out there. New York's a really interesting place because it's really alive. It's obviously where hip hop's from, and as soon as I was there, it just felt like all these places I'd heard about and all these references that I only understood when I got there. And then the same, like poetry is kind of alive, and it was an amazing place to be. I went to this slam and I entered it and was just blown away by the calibre. Like such high calibre poets, and I think it was a combination between the British accent and like.
Did they have you subtitled or?
I had to stop myself and explain certain little references, obviously like Chippy.
What?
It's like Delhi. I don't know, it was cool. New York's a really cool place. I was just there. I went to teach a workshop at Yale.
Did you? No! What's your view of teachers?
Well, hopefully I'm on the Mr. Bradshaw account.
Yeah, you're on the Mr. Bradshaw account. I first came across you, as you know this, at an event called Songs from a Room, which is a live acoustic event that happens, at that time, happened all over London. Once a month, someone would just give their living room, their lounge or whatever, over to acoustic music. People would come with guitars, and because of the nature of the event, and as we all know, the form dictates the content, Kelly, the music was typically singer-songwriterish and close harmony, folky music. Closing the show that night in someone's sitting room, a big crowd, you know, as many as you can get into a big side sitting room, like 50, 60, 70 people. And Kate was there with her two musician buddies, Sound of Rum, who one had a very reduced drum kit and one had a guitar with an amplifier. And Kate typically apologetically said, "You're going to hate me because I'm not a singer-songwriter, I'm a rap artist." And also typically she tore the place apart. And you were amazing that night. You had such fun, you had such originality, you weren't towing any party line, and I've loved you ever since. Your performance skills, and there's people who haven't seen you, just get an idea to this afternoon. You're part ragamuffin, part Old Testament preacher, aren't you, really? You know, you are a prophet. You have a wisdom beyond your years, but you're down with the kids as well. How did you hone those performance skills, which you've so clearly got? You're a mesmerising performer. You're very charismatic.
Well, I think I spent a lot of time doing a lot of gigs, and because it was such a struggle at first to get on the mic, I'd be at a party or a gig and someone else would be rapping and I would be like outraged that it wasn't me, and would literally walk up on stage and just like try really. So I had a lot of like time of when I had a minute I really had to make it count, and then like I did loads of festivals and I just rocked around with a band, we did busking, and like now I've been gigging for quite a long time, and obviously it's my living, so I took anything that came my way, and so now I have this kind of understanding about the stage and this relationship with it, where actually I find it a really peaceful place, even though sometimes I kind of go through the mill when I'm trying to say what I'm trying to say. But I have this kind of, it's like a comfort. It's like, you know, even picking up a pen or picking up a microphone or being on stage, it's like it's a whole other thing that I understand in a completely different way. It's like, I'm 26 now, I started at 16, so it's 10 years of like, wanting it, not understanding it, finding my way through it, like fucking up, you know, literally like doing it wrong, learning, doing it right, learning, and then the relationship that you can have with an audience. You know, that was not a very good example, because obviously I'm quite nervous and just like thinking about what matey just said. Sorry. Robert Wilson, sorry. I don't know, it's like, I find it a very like...
Would that be Pulitzer Prize winning matey that you're talking about? Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just didn't... I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to know, there's a long tradition in this country of performed poetry. You know, you go back to poetry and jazz in the 50s, or the Liverpool poets in the 60s, John Cooper Clarke in the 70s, and then...
Still today.
And it's still going, is it?
Well, John Cooper Clarke.
Yeah, he's still going, yeah, thank God, thank God. Linton Kwesi Johnson, obviously, another one. What is it like on that scene? Is it a very rarefied atmosphere where you're all checking each other out, or is it a sort of supportive...
Well, like, because I came to spoken word like as an accident, which I think a lot of the people who found the most success in it do. Like, they just found it, and all of a sudden, I was around these people who are writers, you know, actual writers. They actually did write, and we could talk about it, and there was all people in an audience listening, and it was a whole new world. I met this guy Polar Bear, and all like Zena Edwards, and this whole kind of movement of people that were putting pen to paper, and also their personality was so important in how they were performing it. It just blew me away, and like now I listen to like the beat poets or whatever, or read them, and I kind of understand it in a bit of a different way, maybe because it feels a bit like a kind of, I know it sounds really cheesy to say, oh, it feels like a part of something, but it does. Like,
who are the people that you enjoy now? You like Scroobius, don't you? Scroobius Pip.
Yeah, he's wicked. He's a very nice man, and he's been very supportive. But all kinds, like I take equal inspiration from people that have been dead for 100 years and people that I'm on stage with right now. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of wonderful art everywhere, and I love music, and I love reading novels, I love poetry, I love theatre, so I draw equally from everything that hits me, and as long as it's honest, then I'll feel it.
Yeah. What I'd like to do is just show a clip of one of your songs with the band. This is Rumba, which is a great favourite in our house in Cricklewood.
I dedicate this to everybody that's got the guts to just be themselves, even if they're a fucking arsehole. I got love for that. I got so much love for that. I'll be me, who for you will be the true you. I can see straight through you. I'll be me, who
I'm on top of a mountain, screaming dreams into existence. Watching city life from a distance with both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Harder we try, larger the prize, but the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefaced in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule. Both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Harder we try, larger the prize, but the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefaced in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule. Lyrics into cubicle doors like they were pyramid walls, and these were hieroglyphs, old pens with the iron grip. My mind is a storm and the rhymes are the iron it. Evil in the world, stay peaceful, inspired, because snakes have never understood the way the lions live. Wisdom in the rain that falls like words fall from dying lips. Waste a lot of time getting high, but I swear all my bones dry. Trying to climb the cliffs of knowledge, I heard if you wanna write, first you gotta read. I read Shakespeare, Blake, Beckett, Sophocles, ancient mythology, Eastern philosophy, stained glass panels in my mind where apostles breathe. They scream, do what you can, do what you must. In these times there ain't really too much that we can trust. Vanity and lust descend upon us like the dust. We stay barefoot in the fire pit, dancing in the dust with both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Knowing the harder we try, larger the prize, but the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefaced in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule, no. Both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Harder we try, larger the prize, but the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefaced in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule, no. Barefaced in the masquerade ball, no. I speak with the same tongue them old poets spoke with. Whiplash a sequence of words into an opus, and hope is a concept alien to hopeless. Folks with a complex and a failure to focus. Broke from my pockets to my person and fractured like postmodern text where the chapters go backwards. Broke burn hands and foot soles. I look pros, dead in the eyes. She had thick brows and a hook nose. Make this reply when I ask why the shit is described and getting published. Why the farcical flourish the expense of art who nourish the art watches like only in darkness the stars born. Both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Knowing the harder we try, larger the prize. Faster we fly, faster we fall, barefacing in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule, no. Both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Harder we try, larger the prize. But the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefacing in the masquerade ball. Peacemaker never starting, no rule, no. Both eyes fixed on the dark in the sky. Harder we try, larger the prize. But the faster we fly, faster we fall, barefacing the masquerade ball. Stay, barefacing the masquerade ball. Peacemaker.
Rumba. How did this extraordinary collaboration come apart? It's not the obvious music you think of when you think about your work. This rather complex, multi-tempo, stripped down guitar, not even bass and drums, guitar and drums, playing what can only be described by any stretch of the imagination as jazz. How did that come about, Kate?
Well, just where I'm from in South London, there's a whole kind of bunch of musicians and people that kind of hang out together at parties just playing, and I had a big sprawling band. A guy who was in it actually is here. He's called Trip. All right, and basically, it's actually interesting that you're here because initially, when I was putting this band together, Trip was going to play the vibes, and it was going to be like a 9-piece. Plays a vibraphone. This guy's an incredible drummer as well, I was going to have this like 9-piece thing with like da, 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 and then we had this rehearsal, and basically nobody turned up apart from me and Archie and Ferry. And, don't worry about it. I mean,
stand on your chair. Mr. Bradshaw's coming in. He wants a word with you.
But Archie had this new pedal, and he was like, you know what, I can kind of make this guitar sound like more than just a guitar. And then we just started, and that was on a Wednesday. We had this rehearsal. That weekend I had 3 gigs penciled in. Like one was at the Tate Modern, one was at this festival, and the other like all these kind of quiet like gigs, you know. So we spent a couple of hours in the studio on Wednesday, and then by like Monday we played 4 gigs, and we were like, all right, better be a band then.
But it sounds like the most not obvious, but the most natural thing in the world, doesn't it? When you hear Kate with Archie and Ferry doing that, it is so complex, but it is so accomplished and so sympathetic. You've obviously got such an ear out for each other.
Yeah, I love
do you come in with a lyric, or do they come in with a riff and you write a lyric over it? How does that work generally? It's
like there's no formula to it. Like we never really sit down and think about it. It just happens. Sometimes I have a lyric and they have some music, or it happens together, or I don't know. It's strange because actually at the minute we've taken a bit of a breather. We were gigging so hard. We did a support tour with Billy Bragg, and what the band needed for us to do was then go out and spend another year gigging the same record. But it kind of what was the best thing for us three was to take a little break.
Take a breather, yeah.
I'm doing all these like theatre projects and like writing all this stuff. Archie needed to play his guitar again rather than, because he plays with all this machinery and he's kind of, he has to program everything in, and it became a bit brainy rather than kind of heartfelt.
So you're not putting your feet up. You've just come back from Paris, haven't you?
Yeah, so I wrote this. So I got this book. It's kind of gross, isn't it, to do that?
What's it called?
It's called Everything Speaks in Its Own Way, which is a quote from Joyce's Ulysses.
And is it available for sale outside by
It
any
is,
chance?
it
On a
is.
table, just round the corner, on the right. That's really good to know.
It's like, this is, it's loads of poetry, and it's a CD of the poems in live performance, and also some kind of field recordings from where I'm from. So we've got Lewisham Market and my local boozer, and then there's like a DVD of live performance and interviews down by my favourite bit of the River Thames, because the idea being that when I perform my poetry, it gives a lot, and then when you just have it written down on the page, it kind of, something's lacking. So we wanted to create a package that gives as much as I want to people that care to listen. Yeah. So like we kind of went all out, and maybe it's a little precocious to put so much out in your first release, but like 72 pages of poetry, 18-track CD, and also like it's all here.
This sounds like someone asking a question to an actor, but how do you remember all those words when you're performing? I mean, it is an incredible thing. Not just the fact you remember them, but that you can draw up your work in such quick time, in real time. It's not like you're streaming it. It's like it's all there to call on. I've never heard you fluff. Now, maybe you do fluff sometimes, and it's just that you've got very quick powers of recovery, but
I think like the point is that everything I write I mean, and so if you know how you started it, you pretty much, like, I know what I'm trying to say.
So you know the thought process, so the words trigger the next line because you know what you would say.
Yeah, and also it rhymes. You know, everyone knows how to memorise rhymes. We all, like, you know what I mean, nursery rhymes. We all know how to do that. And like I'm writing this show at the minute. It's like a one-woman show. It's like 45-minute poem with an orchestral score. It's all going to be like epic, and like that I've got fucking no idea how to memorise it. Like, no idea. And like, but with this stuff, it's like it's very much from my heart, and like pretty much I know my own language, like, so I can kind of get away with saying I probably will be saying something about the heart or something, or senses.
Will you do us another one?
I'd love to, yeah. I feel a bit rubbish like just talking about it. So do you mind if I stand up?
No, whatever you want. Do you want a mic, or do you want to?
What do you think?
Mic is probably better, just so that...
For the telly?
Yeah, because you're going to be on telly. Oh, you're going to be on telly, Kate.
I'd just like to say thanks for having me. It's really nice being here.
Darling.
So, here's a poem. It goes like this. You're off to work again. You need to make a wage, although you kind of feel like it's a waste of days. Measuring the hours of your life in the paper made, and now your pleasure is devoured, right? It's getting tedious to take the pace. I mean, you're sick of staying late and rising early with a day to face, you know, punching them numbers in that database and pretending that you care about the day-to-day. These office politics, man, they're enough to make your faith decay. And so this morning you were staring in the mirror with your razor blade, and you noticed with a shiver that your face was grey. Because you realise you're actually genuinely pissed off every single time your train's delayed. And you got this weird feeling like you're beginning to fade away. But it's cool though, because you got this girlfriend that you've been seeing for a while now, and you love her, but you don't really feel the same when she smiles now. I mean, you only ever make love with the lights out. She don't really seem as on it as she used to, but it's fine, right? It's fine. Because now's the time for settling down, the time for making do. So you go home, you turn your brain off, and you rent a film off pay-per-view. Sometimes you wonder what your younger self would make of you. You're happy, in a way. You're really happy, right? Like any of your mates from school. And it's true, the cooler ones all fucked off and got them arts jobs in Shoreditch. And now you meet them in the bars, you watch them carry on like heartthrobs, and it always ends up messy no matter how chilled out it starts off. All of a sudden you've gone and got yourself involved in a dance-off. You're like, mate, this is great. I mean, I am rushing my arse off. Stood there feeling like you're on some kind of ride that you can't stop. Next thing, you're in the chippy, rallying with some prick who's got a fast gob. Just another night to wake up from and laugh off. And so, life goes on in the bubble. It's tunnel vision all week, right? And our weekends were there for seeing double. So how are we ever going to see that we're in trouble? We're like a dog wagging its tail expecting a treat because it's learned how to put on its own filthy stinking muzzle. And so life goes on in the bubble. It's tunnel vision all week and our weekends we're there for seeing double. So how are we ever going to see that we're in trouble? We're like a dog baring its teeth protecting its own muzzle. Meanwhile, you're walking through the city with your shoulders squared. You're like, man, I'm from the ends. You lot don't know the kind of load I bear. You're looking at the people that you pass with a ferocious glare. These suits and ties going on like they don't know you're there. You're sick of feeling insignificant. Your ambition's as brilliant as anybody else's, but your temperament is militant because every other day brings the death of an innocent. This inner city living, you're seeing more wakes than Finnegan. And all around you is suspicion, power games and fast living. Everybody's trying to get paid. You can't even rave without someone getting stabbed over something. It's a crying shame because you're like, fuck the higher plane, I want a fast car and a diamond chain. It feels like everybody's out here trying to find their fame. They want their names to ring out like the alarms before the sirens came. They want to leave the people shaking like a lion's mane because they've been denied for so long. They're so sure they have a prize to claim. So tell me, is it time for grief or is it time for blame? I'll stand right here and tell you lot it's time for neither, mate. It's a time for change. Because where I'm from, young boys are given sentences before they've even learned to sign their name. And all you're trying to do is find your way through the lies and pain. Although that said, you have got your heart set on some new kicks. You want them fresh black Nikes with the blue stitch, right? So you've been putting in the hours, moved a few bits. You're like, what's the point in aiming any higher? It seems useless. And so it's small victories in our cities full of rubbish, where our children are either overfed or undernourished, where our talent's suffocated before it can be encouraged, and our true selves are completely ignored. So tell me, what's the point in hoping for more when there are soldiers at war and they are dying without knowing what for? And all you want to do is think nothing, sit and smoke up a draw, mate. We're going nowhere like a boat on a shore, oblivious to the whole ocean. We're a token of a broken, divorced generation whose folks don't know the rapport, don't get me wrong. Just like everybody else here, I have my rent to pay. All I'm trying to say is it feels to me like we're so caught up in the everyday, we've given all our strength away. And so life goes on in the bubble. It's tunnel vision all week and our weekends. Back off Tempest because they're for seeing double, right? Well, how are we ever going to see that we're in trouble? We're like a dog wagging its tail, running off to fetch its own muzzle. And so life goes on in the bubble. It's tunnel vision all week and our weekends. We're there for seeing double. So how are we ever going to see that we're in trouble? Unless we look each other in the eye and say, do you know what? There's a lot more to my life than the everyday struggle.
Kate, you've got a play at the Roundhouse next week called Wasted. Tell us a bit about Wasted.
I'll just gracefully take my seat again. Wasted. Basically, I wrote a play, which was a whole new thing for me, and it was been like a kind of really difficult experience, but really rewarding. And this is the result of like the work of me and my director James Grieve and the actors in the play who are incredible. And it's got a live score played alongside it.
Is it a play in verse or is it a play?
There's sections, there's like dialogue, there's also moments of like verse. Maybe there's like, I don't know, I don't really even know anything about how to explain it other than it's a story about three friends arriving at this day, which is the anniversary of their childhood friend's death. And it's just played over one night in their lives, and it's about how difficult it can be to tell the people you've known the longest, you know, the truth. And it's also about coming to these realizations about the decisions you need to make in order to be the human being that you kind of dare to want to be, and like that kind of push between knowing what you want and then actually going out and getting it. But it's also quite good fun.
And it's also at the Roundhouse coming up. What I'd like to show, Kate, finally, is something that you did with us late at the Tate when I was asked to curate an evening based around the John Martin show of Apocalypse back in November last year, and I thought Cabaret Apocalyptica would be the event for that night, you know, the last cabaret on earth, and who would I love to be playing that, and of course it with you. I've got a little bit of a clip here that we took of you in amongst the
Apocalypse.
Into the present
present, so now I keep cool when I consult my essence, and I give thanks for every blessing like you look. But mate, it's also physical here. You know, the alcoholic in the offie, filling up his trolley till the world disappears. I'm so hungry for something sustainable, something with truth, right? Something unchangeable, something like you in your room, or the rain it falls, the windows are open now and it's splashing on our skin like the sea breeze. You can love me forever but never need me. I'm fucking sure you could be what completes me. So this one is for the hopeless romantics, the broken, the stranded, the puerile, the pedantic, the fearless, the frantic, living in the belly of the beast with the rats and the rancid in these blanketed streets. Why must we starve while they banquet and feast? But mate, Banquo will rise. He has a message for the guilty. This one's for the fast-living, filthy, the gutter mouths. This one's for the city that built me, that will knock me down if I don't learn right. I burn bright. I'll turn might into meager in the blink of an eye. So meet me out there at the bar, we'll raise our drinks to the sky.
What I loved about that was that Kate there was in amongst the Gainsboroughs and the Joshua Reynolds and the pre-Raphaelites, and she didn't seem at all out of her depth or away from her. You just rock. You are the real deal.
Well, can I? It might come across like all like sketchy and like stumbly and like I don't really know. Like I might sound like a bit stupid, but actually this does mean the world to me. And actually, what I do take very seriously, even if I come up here and go like, oh, blah, 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 and like, do you know what I mean? Cool, you know, just get things wrong all the time when I'm speaking. But actually, like my poetry and all my writing, it means the world to me. And to be able to sit and talk about it is actually wicked, even though I'm kind of squirming.
It wouldn't affect us the way it did if it was anything but 100% real. And the thing about you is it is so palpably real what you do, and there's so much wisdom there, and so much righteousness, but not self-righteousness. That's what makes you irresistible and priceless. So,
nice one.
Kate Tempest, we love you. Well done, you. I love you.